Verse 437. According to the nature of a disease, the healer gives its medicine. Even so, the Buddhas teach beings in accordance with their mentalities. This does not belong to the realm of the theoreticians, nor to that of the Sravaka. The Buddhas disclose the way of self-realization. The idea that there is one technique, one universal technique that will lead you to liberation, is clearly in contradiction to this understanding that the Buddha teaches each according to their mentality. Although it does say here Buddhas rather than Buddha. It's more like the Bodhisattva who appears in the different realms, teaching beings, guiding beings towards enlightenment in accordance with their own mentality. Some people will need a gentle nudge. Some people will need more of a shock to the system. If you're walking down the road and you're going in the wrong direction, the Buddha will say, turn back. If you're going off the road towards the right, the Buddha will once again point you in the right direction. It's a different instruction to go back, but it's pointing in the same direction, whatever the instruction. So this is a nice idea. This is a nice idea. What does it mean though, in our experience? What does it mean in terms of our enlightenment practice? Where are these Buddhas? Well, I suppose you could look at YouTube. I'm sure there are many people pointing out words of wisdom, and you can have a good look round and find the one that suits you. But then you have to be sitting at your computer, don't you? What about when you're not at your computer? Where are the Buddhas then? Well, that example that I gave wasn't quite accurate. If you're walking down the road, or your spiritual path, the Buddha isn't going to tell you you're going in the wrong way, turn around, because the Buddha is realization. So in other words, in whatever direction you're going, we need to look out for the Buddha. We need to look out for realization. Now, this isn't an idea. This isn't the teachings of the theoreticians or the Sravakas. The theoreticians are the philosophers who like to think about these things and perhaps write erudite papers on them. The Sravakas are those who just get on with being Buddhists. They like the idea of being Buddhists and they'll do all sorts of Buddhisty things, and that's fine with them. But what we're interested in as enlightenment practitioners is seeing the Buddha. Seeing the Buddha. We're interested in nothing less than realization itself. And we've had some clues already. We've had some realization already. And contrary to the usual story, that once you're there, that's it. You've done it, you've got there, you're liberated, end of story. Well, it's not the end of the story, because we keep falling back. We keep falling back. The Buddha has to keep being rediscovered. Self-realization needs to be returned to afresh. And it's curious, even once this has happened, once there's been realization, and once you've fallen back from it, and you know you've fallen back from it, you don't feel like going back to it, because you've now got an idea about it, and you don't want that idea to spoil your fun. So we just want to get on with forgetting. And we really have forgotten at this point, because we've forgotten about the all-embracing nature of this enlightened awareness. We want to stick our nose in the trough once again and snort away. We've got other things to get on with. Thank you very much. This is when we have to remember the Buddha, not as some wet blanket, as some party pooper. As somebody who wants us to stop enjoying ourselves. That's not what it's about. If we think the teachings are boring, if we think that they're about being a bit of a small sport, about being holier than thou, and all the rest of it, then we've forgotten. We really have forgotten. We've forgotten the Buddha. We've forgotten realization. We've forgotten who we really are. And we've forgotten how wonderful all of that is. We've shut down. We don't want to know anymore. And this is part of being an enlightenment practitioner. This is part of the challenge, part of the struggle, to keep it fresh. To remember how wonderful it is, how liberating it is. And to remind us when we're locked in our little shell of petty pleasures, and that's not really what we're about. There's something more wonderful to come back to. So this is what we need to do. And the Buddhas that teach beings in accordance with their mentalities. Well, from a practical point of view, this means that we need to recognize the Buddha, or remember that we're enlightenment practitioners, no matter what the situation. Even when you're socializing with other people. This can be quite a challenging situation. You don't sort of suddenly go all silent and sit with your eyes closed meditating. But you engage with the situation, coming and going back to yourself. It might not be as complete as you might like, but you try, make the effort. Embrace the situation. That situation is different to the one where perhaps you're at work, or perhaps when you're watching this video. We've got all these situations, and we need to see how we can practice enlightenment in all of these situations. Each situation is different. Maybe when we're making love, talking to a friend, watching television. All these situations, there are ways of practicing enlightenment. And none of these situations is inimical to it. Because enlightenment practice embraces every situation. Perhaps our behaviour, we're not too happy about it. Perhaps we're a little bit ashamed about some of the things we get up to. This is an opportunity. The opportunity to look for the Buddha, not as somebody who's going to tell you what a naughty boy or girl you've been. No, we don't have any of that. We don't have any of that. Bring some love to the situation. Bring some lovingness to the situation. That's one way we can practice enlightenment. Lovingness and acceptance. So this is a challenge. No matter what the situation, no matter our behaviour, no matter the circumstances we find ourselves in, let's open up to it. Let's be aware. Examine the mood. Step back from the mood. The Buddha, or the Buddhas, are there always to remind us that we can open up to something more wonderful.